live with the community. This is the May 2023 Power Platform Community Call. Today is May 17th. I am so excited for everything that we have in store for everyone today. Let's take a look at our agenda. We're going to get the latest updates and news on Power Platform by our amazing contributors, Daniel Laskewitz. And then we're going to see some upcoming events in the community. We're going to have the opportunity to have a group picture time with Together Mode. And then we're going to have three amazing presenters. Arun is going to talk about integrating Power Apps with Azure Machine Learning and OpenAI using Power Automate. And then Robin is going to cover ChatGPT, but with your data in Power Apps. Everybody loves a little of their own data. And then Elaiza is going to cover low-code tips for fields in Power Pages. So we got a broad spectrum, but we want to hold our horses, right? Because we got some updates to talk about first. So the first thing to keep in mind is that this is your community call. We absolutely want you to be empowered to present on this. This is not Microsoft going out and saying, oh, we only want you and you and you. We want everybody to present. So we absolutely welcome you. It doesn't have to be anything amazing. It can be a feature, a functionality that you've learned and you love, a tip, a trick. Anything and everything is welcome. So all you got to do is go to ak.ms/community/request/demo. Rolls right off the tongue, right? You can copy and paste too. And fill out that form and input what you'd like to talk about, and we'll reach out to you and get you scheduled. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us and let us know that you would like to present. This is your community call. Again, it is for you, by the community, for the community. All right, let's get over to some news, right? So this is going to be News Desk with Daniel Laskewitz.
I love this intro, really. Thank you, David. Yeah, there's a bunch of new news updates. One is about the improved variables and collection experience in the Canvas Designer. A lot of you probably already know this and noticed it in the left navigation. You can find it there. There are a bunch of new improvements to the modern app designer, like you can have the forms, for instance, and the views in line of the editor. There's also a new experience for custom connectors to create them from within Visual Studio. That's something that the code first developers would love to see, of course. And this is one that's very near and dear to my heart. We started the Power Platform developer blog, and the Welcome to the Power Platform developer blog is actually the opening that April did for the blog. So that's one that's really cool. And last but not least, from the news, we also released a Power Platform prompt samples repository. So make sure to go there and check out all the prompts that you can use for the GPT experiences within the Power Platform. And we also have some Learn updates. Yeah, David told me to not say next slide, so I'm not doing that, of course.
This is me not saying next slide.
So yeah, on the Learn side, there is a new security role editor experience, so make sure to check that one out. There's also a docs article about how to create a new developer environment. We all know that the developer environments are now renewed. So you have a new version of the developer environment. You can have 3 different developer environments now, and this goes all around that. And the Visual Studio Connected Service, that's also a docs article that got released, and that's part of the connector experience, custom connector experience for Visual Studio. So with that, that's the news and learn part. Should I say next slide, please? No.
I'm David GPT for Daniel.
Okay, so for the Power Platform samples, there are a bunch of new samples. There's a really cool sample by Rashmi about Instagram, and that sample really showcases how you can use the Instagram connector. That's also part of the independent publisher connectors program. There's also a really cool sample for requesting teams. So when you want to have a new Teams team, that's really a good thing to say quickly after each other. So Teams team. You can request a team there, and that's a really lovely sample as well. It's really well designed. That's done by Katerina. And last but not least, Natalie Leenders created a KPI sample And that's something that will show you how to do colors based on Power FX, for instance. So that's also a really cool sample. And if you want to contribute, go to aka.ms/Power Platform-samples. And yeah, that's about it for the samples.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. And yeah, I think we need a team in Teams for a team, right? Could make like a rap out of it or something. So, all right. Well, we got some exciting news still coming for you. How many connectors are there? How many? 1,000. Jocelyn, tell us more.
Hi, everybody. We are now officially at over 1,000 certified Power Platform connectors. Officially, it's actually 1,023 as of today. I'm sorry, I've been a little quiet on socials lately. It's because this big news was coming out. We have a blog post about it. We have some team party pictures about it. We have so much to share with you guys. And David, remind me, is there something else that maybe talks about it a little more coming out with me and you tomorrow? Possibly?
There might be. Tell me more. Tell me more.
There might be. Is there possibly a Power Platform Connections episode where we get into it?
There is, starring our very own Jocelyn.
I'm so excited to bring you this news. I'm going to put a bunch of links in the chat, but in case anybody is new to the world of connectors, just a reminder, connectors serve Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps, and our ecosystem of custom connectors is actually, every connector starts as a custom connector, but our ecosystem of certified connectors is the ones that go through our certification process to be part of that list of fully available connectors for all. And so many of those were built by the community of independent publishers. I know we have so many of you guys here. I know that we talked about Reshmi and we have Robin demoing. All possible because of you guys. So thank you all so much. And if you can't get enough of connector content, scan that QR code to join our connector-specific labs call, usually held on the second Wednesday of every month. Links will be in the chat. Thank you all so much for making this a reality.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you, Joss. All right. Now you may be wondering, I want to create a connector. I want to submit it to GitHub. What's this hub of Gits that everyone's talking about? Hugo, tell me more.
Excellent, David. Thank you. Well, we have some guidance for you. We know how scary it can be to get started in the community, doing your first GitHub pull request and doing your first public speaking presentation. But don't worry, we have sessions for you as part of Sharing is Caring. And Sharing is Caring are hands-on sessions that are never recorded in their safe space where we'll show you how to do, for example, your first Power Platform sample and how to actually submit it in GitHub. And trust me, it's not that scary. We have more sessions coming up. They can be found at ak.ms/sharing-is-caring. And we are looking for volunteers. If you'd like to help us run some of these sessions, please reach out to us. We will be needing help because this is getting really, really successful and crowded. Is crowded the right word, David? I don't know.
I know. I've been putting on some weight. I'll work on that. Crowding out. No, it's been great. It's been great. Absolutely.
Now, once you have contributed to the community, you can actually show that you know your stuff by joining the Community Recognition Program. So this is a program that's run on Credly, the same Credly that issues certification badges, but it's absolutely free for you. All you need to do is to go to ak.ms/community/recognition, give us your GitHub account and your email address, and as you create pull requests and other contributions that are recognized through the programs, you will automatically assign these badges. And then you can showcase them. You can put them on LinkedIn. You can put them on the resume and tell people that you know your stuff. And that's it for me. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Hugo. And we are actually enhancing the recognition program, everybody, to bring more campaigns, as well as the registration process is going to be a little more streamlined. We're looking to use a service now for that. That'll help you update things. So be on the lookout for more updates there. We're super, super excited. All right, let's get into some community shows and events. We're going to invite Daniel back to the stage to talk about Low-Code Revolution.
Yes, so we had 3 new episodes this month. We had one from Julia Casper around API management, authorizations, and the Power Platform. So that's one that's really cool to watch. We also had one with me and Marcel about the custom connector creation from within Visual Studio that I also talked about at the news. And there's also a really cool episode about the new model view in Power BI by David Abu and Emily Lisa. So make sure to check them out on aka.ms/lowcoderevolution show. And if you want to be a guest, make sure to register through aka.ms/lowcoderevolution guest.
Awesome. Thank you very kindly, Daniel. All right, let's talk about some other events that are coming up. Everybody's so excited to start seeing each other again in person, live. We have legs. We can see them. Let's talk about the European Power Platform Conference. This is coming up at the end of June. And so you can get in on some early bird tickets pricing, so take advantage of that. I'll put all these links here in the chat for these events. We also have ECS coming up next week, so there is still some opportunity to get in on board there. Power Platform Rocks will get you 15% off. We have the Dynamic Minds coming up here shortly as well next week too, so we got things just right around the corner. We've also got some EduCon and Power EduCon coming up, so a lot of excitement there around a number of events with DC, Seattle, and Chicago. Again, a community code for you, gets you 25% off. Who doesn't like discounts, right? And you too could have your event highlighted. So Community Days is a Microsoft program that provides you the opportunity to amplify and list all of the upcoming events that you may be part of or running. Here are some coming up in May and June that we've pulled from the Community Days site, but you can absolutely have your own added as well. So check out aka.ms/community days, and we will make sure to get you included. What time is it? It is picture time. So if you would like, go ahead and share your fantastic faces. I am going to throw things into together mode here. And we will set up the recording. Mini screens. Let's move that off. And move this in. All right, we still got some room, still got some seats available. We are gonna, all right, just ready? Who's ready for that? All right, still a couple more seats. Anybody? All right, we'll start recording. All right, let's wave to the community, everybody. Let them know how fantastic you are. We love you. Oh, there you are, more showing up. Awesome. All right, throw those hands up. I see Cat's Dino is joining in, so we are an inclusive community, dino friendly, dragon friendly. All right, looks great. Thank you all. Okay, all right, well, what time is it? It is time for our amazing presenters. So Arun is going to cover integrating Power Apps with Azure Machine Learning and OpenAI using Power Automate. You should be able to take over the screen, my man.
Hi, everyone. So firstly, I am Aaryan Arora, and I am a beta Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and a computer engineering student at Delhi Technological University, India. I'm also an open source developer who has been contributing particularly to Power Platform since the last 1.5 years. And today I'll be giving a demo on integrating Power Apps with Azure Machine Learning and OpenAI using Power Automate. So firstly, the introduction. So in this demo, I'll show you how you can build a health expense planner Power App to track your health expenses. So it is basically an app that is a powerful tool that can help you stay on top of your health expenses and save money. This sample basically allows the users to predict their health expenses using a machine learning model and then get a detailed personalized plan to save funds for it. Okay, so moving on to the features. So the sample basically takes different parameters like the age, sex, BMI, number of children, and whether they are a smoker or not. It uses a custom-built Azure AutoML model integrated to Power Apps using Power Automate Flow. And then it provides a customized plan to save for the health expenses based on the inputs and the result of the Azure model. And it uses OpenAI's API to create that plan. So moving on to the solution components. So it basically comprises the Canvas app, which is the health expense app. Then the other component is the Azure AutoML Flow, which is the Power Automate Flow that links the Canvas app to the Azure AutoML model. and thirdly, the model itself for making predictions. So this is how the app looks. The interface is kind of simple, and give me a second. Okay, so basically, first we provide all of our details like age, sex, BMI, children, and smoker, yes or no. And once these parameters are provided, the expenses are predicted using these parameters and are provided here. And based on these details, a health plan is created, which we will look into later on. So this is the Power Automate flow, which is called in the Power App by pressing a button. Then it sends an HTTP request to the AutoML endpoint. And then once we get the response back, we pass that JSON query to basically pass it back to the Power App so that we can use it. Then this is the snapshot of the data set that I used to build the model. So like these are the various parameters and the link to the data set. And I did not use the region parameters, that was not particularly relevant for this use case. And this is the AutoML model. So it's basically the deployed endpoint. So this is the input that we pass to the endpoint, and this is the result that we get. So it's a float number representing the expenses in USD. So what do we need to set up the Power App? So firstly, we need to get an API key from OpenAI. Then we need to have an account for Power Apps and Power Automate. Also, you need to have an active account in Azure, and you need to have deployed an Azure AutoML model so that you can get an endpoint for predictions. So moving on to the data sources. So the Power App basically includes the OpenAI connector. So we can add that connector to the Power App and then use it in the following way. And also it includes the Power Automate flow, which is basically the flow that is called upon when the button is pressed. And after that, it sends an HTTP request to the model endpoint and then gets the input, passes a JSON, and that output is then passed back to the Power App to be used and shown in the app. So how the screens will look out, like the results. So for example, I provided these parameters to the Power App. Based on that, it predicts the expenses and it creates a plan. So it suggests like creating an emergency plan and having a health insurance. So in these things, one thing is to be observed that these parameters indicate that you have to create a plan that requires you urgent planning. On the other hand, if we take an input of a person who is more healthier and younger, so in that case, the expenses are reduced, and at the same time, the plan takes into account the fact that you are younger, so you can basically create a fund slowly by contributing $1,000 per month and various factors. So now moving back to the demo. Okay, so this is the Power App where we have basically all the elements like the text boxes and the input parameters. And the main thing is the predict button, where basically we call the AutoML flow and the OpenAI's connector. So we need to first ensure that we have added the connector in the data sources, and also going to the flows, we need to add the flow here as well. So I'll just show you flow as well. So basically it takes the endpoint URL and it sends a post request, and then basically you have to provide the input parameters in the queries. And once that is done, we can get the response back, and this is a response schema, and finally we can use that in the Power Apps. So moving on to the part, so we can we can call the flow from here directly by calling it and passing it the parameters. And for the OpenAI connector, the main thing is to use the correct model and also to provide a prompt. So in this prompt, we provide the various things like the whole input is provided in a textual manner so that the model can understand, and then also the result of like the funds that are required. So we add that as well. So let's see it in action. So for example, we say age 50, say male, let's say BMI is 31, children, let's say 1, and We give the parameters. Then we call the predict button. So it gets a response back from the prediction model. And then this is passed further to the OpenAI's text completion model. Yeah, so we get the response back. And here it's kind of in between because it's some kind of a middle-aged group. So you also have to like create an emergency fund, but you can also plan your health savings. And that's basically about the demo. Other than that, this is the Azure AutoML model, which we can create using the Azure Machine Learning Studio. And we can go to automated ML and create the model. And once that is done, we can deploy the best model that is present, and we can use those endpoints in the Power App to directly link it. And this is OpenAI, which we can use to get our API keys and get started with basically the building process. And that's all from my side.
Awesome, Arun. Thank you. I really love seeing how creative everyone's getting with this AI and ChatGPT and stuff like that, right? It's not just about, hey, let me ask it to rewrite this thing or let me ask it to schedule, but being able to do predictive models like this is very, very cool. Thank you for taking the time to share with us and the community. All right, next up, Robin is going to have another topic, ChatGPT, but with your data in Power Apps. Everybody loves a little of their data in everything. So, Robin, take it away.
Yes, give me a small second. And here we are. Because why would we want to use our data in ChatGPT? Because when you ask ChatGPT for facts, who knows how that meme ends, you're going to have a bad time. Well, this time we actually had a good time because ChatGPT actually know the answer, but sometimes it's a big mix. You get mixed results, you get hallucination, and for one thing we can't get facts out of ChatGPT when we are using internal data that ChatGPT can't know about because it is not on Wikipedia or not on the web, so not in the ChatGPT training data. And a little bit about me. My name is Robin. I work at a German energy company. I'm not an IT guy. I'm a mechanical engineer. And most important about that, I have no clue how all these AI stuff works. But what I do know, it's that they have really easy APIs that we can use and leverage. So we don't have to know how all of this works, but we can just connect to it and use it in our Power Platform projects, just like the OpenAI embeddings endpoint we're going to look at today, because we're going to vectorize our data. And yeah, let's see how we can do that and how we can call that endpoint. But first of all, let's jump into a small demo video right here. I made a movie database that consists of 7,000 movies. And as you can see, the plots and genres and years of the movies and so on. And if we're now looking for a search term, then we will find movies that are similar to that search term. So David, I will need in a few minutes movie search term for you, and we're gonna search live for movies. And then it's a little bit like in the previous demo. Then we provide ChatGPT with context of the movies. So this could be any data, not data that ChatGPT actually knows about, like movies, but this could be any data, because in the prompt we're gonna put the context in there and then let ChatGPT make sense of that and tell it why we should watch those movies. So embeddings, what are embeddings? What is vectorization and why do we need it? Well, it's a cool concept where we get a text or just a word, and we represent the meaning of that text or word with a vector. So what can we think of that? How does that look like? This is a simple vector with 2 dimensions. So if we have an X value and a Y value, we can show it in the plot. So for the word dog, we probably have this vector. For the word cat, we have this vector. Then we bring a third word into the mix. In this case, it's Labrador. It's probably here. And now it's all just numbers, and then we can calculate the distance between those words. And we see the distance between the word dog and Labrador is shorter than the distance between the word Labrador and cat, which makes sense because it's a dog breed. Of course, in reality, it's not that easy, because we don't have 2 dimensions, OpenAI uses a model that has 1,500 dimensions. So a little more data, but the concept stays the same and the calculations stay the same and are easily doable for a computer. So let's look exactly at that example we had, but let's use real data. So now I'm calling the OpenAI API on this button, and as we see, we get 1,536 numbers back, which is the vector, the meaning of the word dog. And we're doing the same for the word cat. And then we're doing the vector search and check the similarity for the word Labrador. And as we can see, in fact, it has higher similarity to the word dog than it has to the word cat. Let's see how the code looks like for that, because it's not that complicated at all. Make it a little bit bigger. The actual API call, really short, and as I said in the chat a little bit earlier, this is not right now in the independent publisher connector, but will be in 2 or 3 weeks. This is a custom connector I built, but luckily the documentation on OpenAI page is really good. Or you can just, I already linked that in the chat to the repo, where you will find all the connectors, and there is the actual new version I put up there that will be deployed in 2 or 3 weeks. So you can get started right now or wait 2 weeks and just use the independent publisher connector in the platform. And all that the connector wants from us is the model which we want to use, in this case the embedding other model, and the text we want to vectorize, which is the text box in here. And on the other side, we're first doing the same thing. Get a vector, but we are not using this code, which would be the same as the last time. But this time we can use the Azure OpenAI service. So I saw a question in the chat where it just was like, we needed to be in this region, and if we have sensitive data, especially when we are from Europe, we have to be GDPR compliant. So we don't want our information going to US servers of OpenAI. And then, of course, we just deploy our own OpenAI models in Azure and use this. And there's also a great connector you can use. This is not an independent publisher connector, but a custom connector that Daniel Laskewitz built, the same that was speaking earlier. And I've also added the embeddings endpoint there, so you can also download these from the repo. And the whole calculation for the similarity, I will not go into detail right here, but it's not too hard, just a few lines of code, and we can check the similarity of those 2 terms. And let's get back to the presentation before we get to the movie demo, because I want to show you what I did here. We don't look into that, but just looking at it schematically, I downloaded the movie data of 7,000 movies from IMDb. They have a free data set you can play around with. Really cool stuff. There was no summary or plot in there, so I let ChatGPT write summaries for 7,000 movies and stored all the metadata up here into Dataverse. And then I created embeddings for all of these 7,000 movies. So we have 7,000 vectors with 1,500 numbers each. And I didn't store them in Dataverse because Dataverse can't make sense of that. They are specialized vector databases. In this case, it's Pinecone, which has a free tier. So get an account and start playing around with it. And this database doesn't only help you with storing them, but also retrieving them and calculating the distances in the back end. And when we are retrieving the data, then again, we were typing in a search term like you saw in the demo earlier, create an embedding of that. We get the 10 most similar movies. And then we puzzle back the data we got, because here are only the IDs of the movies stored. Then we get our metadata from our Dataverse database back. And then, just like in a previous demo, we give context to ChatGPT and let it make sense of that. So we give the plots and the summaries and the name and the years of the movie, and then ChatGPT should tell us why this is a great movie I have to watch when searching for the search term XYZ. Oh, David.
Yes, sir.
What kind of movie do we want to watch?
Well, let's see. Guardians just came out, and there's a wide spectrum. What do we do? What if we do a search on Marvel? Will that work?
Let's try. So now we're getting our data from the database back any second. Captain Marvel, of course, really close because it's in the title actually, but all these others don't have it in the title, and these are, I think, all Marvel movies. So that seems to work. Was there one sneaking in? No, all Marvel movies, I think. Is this different Avengers? Don't know. And now we're waiting for ChatGPT. This takes a little bit longer, so about 20-25 seconds, and it will tell us why we should watch those movies when we are looking for a Marvel movie.
I wonder if ChatGPT can also add like a post-credit take. Like after we read it, it gives us like a sneak preview to see what I did there.
Yeah. And yeah, then it's given his take. Captain Marvel, fantastic movie, and what it's about. And I also snuck in the URLs and let ChatGPT write an HTML text, so we can actually click on that. It's a little bit like the Bing with the new Bing with the numbers, where we can click on the sources. So let's really quickly look at the code on this button. Also, just a few lines of code in here. First of all, again, we get the embedding. Then we do the pinecone query, did a custom connector for that, but they also have good documentation, so it took 10 minutes to set everything up. Pass the vector in here. We want the top 10 results back. We puzzle the data back together. This is my Dataverse table. And then we let ChatGPT write our review for the movies. And here we are actually passing the data we got from the database back in here. And yeah, got our ChatGPT's take for that movie. And for the last slide, let's again jump back to the presentation, because we want to get back to business. So back from the fun projects to probably something more business related. Let's think about support cases like regular customer support or IT support. We have a database full of successful cases where we actually help the customer. Let's ChatGPT write a summary of every of those cases with the problem and the solution, create an embedding of that, and store everything in a vector database. Of course, we're using Azure OpenAI for that because we want to have control over where the data goes to. And on the output, probably this time we have a Power Virtual Agent where the customer can type in a search term. Then there's an embedding created. We get back similar cases from our vector database, puzzle the data back together, and then we provide the context to ChatGPT. We provide the question the customer asked, and then we provide the solutions of the 3 most similar cases we had in that department, and then it can make sense of that and probably formulate a solution that will actually help the customer. So we put our data in ChatGPT. So really amazing stuff. What comes all of this AI? And my take is it's so easy to connect to those APIs. Let it be OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, or other AIs that come out. And my suggestion is start some fun projects, get your hands wet in that, and yeah, start building something with it. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, David.
Robin, awesome stuff. I cannot say how awesome this has been by saying it more than 3 times, right? But really cool stuff. I also appreciate how you showed it can be fun. That helps people learn. Right? I think that's a secret sauce for everybody who's wanting to get into this technology. Find something that's maybe not business related. Just because we do have a couple minutes, I did want to ask you, is that something that helped you learn to keep going with the movies you were passionate about? It was fun, and then you kind of looked for the business side of it?
Yeah, I had the business in mind, but I had no database with business cases. So I looked for something that I was passionate about and I would have fun with a little bit. So.
Yeah.
made my own database.
Absolutely awesome. That is great stuff, and a great tip for all of us to be able to use that, because sometimes it can be hard to say, what am I going to use this for, and maybe not having the passion. In this case, you absolutely use that for something you're passionate about, and it led to what is an amazing success. So thank you for that. Awesome stuff. Okay, well, our last presenter of the day. Now I'm going to get real quiet because it's Elaiza, and she has a new baby-ish. And why am I quiet? Because it's 3 a.m. where Elaiza's at. She is connecting to us from New Zealand at 3 a.m. So you have our attention. Take it away.
Hey everyone, thanks David for that intro. Okay, let me share my screen.
And she's going to be talking about low-code tips for fields and Power Pages.
Yes, I am. Yeah, like David said, I am based in New Zealand, so it's quite early over here, but I'm so glad to be joining the call right now. I'm Elaiza. I am based in New Zealand, and fun fact, when you look at the Power Automate home landing page, if you scroll all the way down, you're going to see me. So there's me. I'm on the Power Automate homepage, so that's pretty cool. So just a little bit about me. I live in the capital city of New Zealand. I first started out with Dynamics CRM version 4, so it's now named as Dynamics 365. So this is way back in the day, and fast forward to today, I have picked up so much love for the wider stack, and I'm pretty much well known for Power Automate. But before Power Automate, I also fell in love with what was then called ADX Studio Portals, which is now Power Pages. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to share some low-code tips for fields and Power Pages. Now, if you have any questions, I can't really see the chat right now, so David or Hugo or even Joss, you might need to help me out and let me know if there's any questions in the chat afterwards. Okay, so in terms of the agenda, this is what I'm going to go through with you all today. So the first one is how to format the date and time for your fields in Power Pages. So a typical use case for this is if you are based somewhere outside of the USA. So for me, I'm based in New Zealand. Our date format is different, so I want to display it differently on the portal. The second one is, did you know that you can make a Dataverse lookup column appear as a dropdown? Well, you're about to find out. And then for number 3, I'm going to show you how to pre-populate fields in Power Pages. So I've got 2 tips there for you. And then I'm going to show you how to format a phone number field using regex. So that's going to be really cool. And then I'll talk about help with text. If we have enough time, then I'll show you how to change the label for a button without any code. So you don't need to use JavaScript. This is all inbuilt within Power Pages. Okay, so let's jump into it. I'm going to head over to my browser, and over here I'm in the portal management model-driven app. So this is where you can do a lot of your configuration outside of the design studio of Power Pages. So for the purpose of this call, I just have a simple web page set up here. So in this web page, I've got a list displaying, and this list will allow you to create a new row in Dataverse. So I've just created a application table with just some fields just for the demo. Note that this Power Pages site is not externally public. I haven't made that available yet. So this is all just inside within the confinements of Power Pages. Okay, so the first one that I wanted to talk about was in regards to the date and time. So what I mean by that, from what I said earlier in the call, by default, the language for Power Pages will be set to English US. So that means that the date and time fields will always appear as MDYYY. In other words, it will start with month, and then it'll followed by the date, and then followed by the year. But if you live outside of the USA, such as me, I live in New Zealand, our date format is different. It goes by date, month, year. So how do we go ahead and change that for our overall site in Power Pages? So the trick to doing that is you create a site settings record, and in here is where you can define what that date time format will be. So I'm going to create a new site setting record. I'm going to call this date time date format, and I'll select my Power Pages site. And then the value that I'm going to put in here is mm/YYY. And then I'm going to click Save and Close. So this will now create that new site setting. And because I've created a new Power Pages configuration record, I'm going to clear the cache. And then once that has been cleared, I'm going to refresh my Power Pages page, and I'll show you what it now looks like. So now when I create the button, and as you can see, that date of birth, date and time field has now been updated to show the format that I had entered in that site setting. So now if I pick a date, it will now correctly show as date, month, and year. So that's the first tip. So the second tip is to do with changing a lookup to a drop-down. So I have a city lookup column in Dataverse. So this is just showing me the major cities in New Zealand. So as of right now, it's showing as a lookup. You can search for it, you can select it, and then it'll get added to the field. But what if you want to show that as a drop down to the end user? You don't want to go and change all of that in Dataverse in the back end. You can simply do it in the front end for Power Pages. And again, to do that, we are going to head over to the Portal Management app, and I'm going to go to Basic Forms, and I'm going to open up the basic form that represents that create form that you see that pops up. So I'm going to click on Edit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add what we call basic form metadata. And here's where I can change that functionality. So instead of having it appear as a lookup, we're going to make it appear as a drop down. So in here for the type, I select attribute. And in here, I select the control style as render lookup as drop down. And then in the next field that you see down below, is the attribute logical name. So this will now show me all of the fields that are added to that basic form. So if you don't see a field on your form, it's because you haven't added it to your form. So that's another tip there for you. So now I'm going to select city, and I'm going to again hit save and close. So we'll go back and clear the cache, and it's because I've created a new configuration record for the metadata for the basic form. So now if I hit the refresh button, and we'll repeat those steps, I click on create, we can now see that the lookup is rendered as a drop-down. See, so just with a bunch of clicks, no code, I can get it looking as a drop-down. Cool. So the next one that I'm going to go through is pre-populating a field. So in here, we've got an email address field. And as a signed-in user against my profile account, I have an email address. So what if I want to pre-populate this field? Can I do that without code? Yes, you can. Same thing. Go to your Portal Management Model-Driven app, and in your basic form, for that form that you want to pre-populate data with, you want to create new metadata again. So I'm going to click on that new basic form metadata. I'm going to select attribute, and this time I'm going to select email address. So now when I scroll down, we keep going. There is a section here called pre-populate field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select current portal user as a type. And then in here, it's going to show me all of the fields that are associated to the contact table. And all I need to do is find that email address field. So if I go and select the email field, and I hit save and close, and we'll repeat those steps. So I'll clear the cache, and then I'll refresh this. I'll click on create. Ta-da! There you go. So I've pre-populated the email address field. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit submit, because there's one other tip that I want to show that comes up very frequently with Power Pages FAQs. So I've created my application. Now, if I go back to the actual model-driven app that shows me the applications, and if I hit refresh, you'll notice that the contact field is blank. So how do we go about that in terms of populating it? Well, this time around, instead of creating your basic form metadata, and you can do it, it will work. What you want to do is head over to the additional settings tab. And in here is where you're going to see several fields. Oh, add removed. Interesting. Never come across that before. Anyways, if you scroll down, you'll see a section called Associate Current Portal User on Insert. And in here is where you want to check this tick box. And in the drop-down field, you want to select the lookup column that will reflect that sign-in user. So in my scenario, it is this contact lookup column field. So now if I hit save and close, and I'll clear the cache, however you want to say it, and then I'll hit the refresh button. And so now if I click on create, and if I now hit submit, and I go back here, it will now automatically populate that lookup field behind the scenes because of those changes that I made to the additional settings tab of the form. Okay, so down to the last two tips, which is applying regex to a phone number field. So again, we can do this out of the box by creating metadata. So I'm going to go to the basic form metadata form. I'll click on add new basic form metadata. I'll select attribute, and then in this field, the attribute logical name, I'll select the phone number field. And if we scroll all the way down, there is an area where you can provide some validation. And in here is where you have the option to enter some regex. I'm just going to go ahead and copy one that I prepared in Notepad. So just, where's my mouse? Oh, here we go. So I'll just go and paste that in there, and I'll explain it in a bit. And then I can also provide a warning message as well. This is so that when the user tries to submit a phone number that doesn't meet what you've defined in here, it'll throw that message. So I'll just paste it in there. So basically what this regex is saying is that it needs to start with +64 or 0. And then the second lot of numbers need to either start with 2 or 8. And then the digits need to be between 7 and 9. And the dollar character represents the end of the string value. And then with my validation message, I can enter it here. So I'm going to hit save and close. And I'm going to go back to portals, services, and clear the cache. And then I'll go back to my Power Pages site, I'll refresh it, and then I'll hit the create button. So now if I don't start with +64, so let's say I start with 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, and I also don't need the number of digits. If I try to hit submit, it's going to show and throw that validation error message. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to the field. So this is if I had a long list of fields on the web form. If I click on this hyperlink, it'll take me directly to the field. So now if I follow the format that's been specified, so I'll just do this. I should now be able to submit, and it's allowed me to submit because I've conform to the requirements of what I've defined. And just another tip, if you don't know how to create regex expressions, I did a quick check to see, what AI tools are available out there. And so I found this. So if there's something that you're trying to validate and you want to create it as a regular expression, give this website a go. Not sponsored at all. I just tried it out myself. And I put it into Power Pages and it worked. So there you go. Okay, so then the last tip that I want to talk about is helper text. So helper text, I didn't know this, by the way. I only found out about this years ago when I was looking into this. Helper text is the the bit of text that appears on fields on websites or web forms, and they help educate the end user what it is that they need to do with this field. So sticking with the phone number, that's what I'm going to show you next. So I'm going to go back to the basic warm metadata field, and I'll just edit this. And then if I scroll down through the section on here called description instructions. So what you want to do is you want to change add description from no to yes. And in here, it allows you to position the helper text. You can either have it above the field, below the field, or above the label. So I'm going to have it as below the field. And in here, you have the option to use the description that you've entered for that column or field in Dataverse when you created that field in the first place. So I'm going to select no because I want to customize it a little bit. Again, this is not using any code. This is low code. So in here, what I can do is I can, let's say, add this piece of text. So I'm just going to paste this into here. And I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to clear the cache me outside. Does anyone know about that? Okay, so I'm going to hit create. And as you can see, we have that helper text appearing. So that's pretty cool. That's done without low code. So I'm going to show you a few more cool tips in case you don't know. So this time I'll change it to above the field. So what you can do is you can actually include HTML tags. So what I mean is if I just copy and paste this one here from a notepad, in here I've got the hyperlink HTML tag. So what's going to happen now is when I hit save, and when we go and view that updated configuration in the portal, we're now going to see a hyperlink so that an end user can click on that. So this is typically used when you have something like terms and conditions or, you know, read the fine print here. This is something that you can do as well in your help text. Well, did it work? Okay, well, it worked during my demo, so why does that not work? Okay, I'm not sure, but normally it does. But what would happen is that it would show it and it would load. So then if we go back here, other things that you can do is change the color. So if I go ahead and just grab this and paste it in here. So in here, I can use some more HTML tags. In here, I'm defining what the color should be of the font. This is if I want to use it outside of the CSS of the Parapages site. I can also put in italics as well. So if I hit save, and we'll go and refresh the Parapages site, and I'll hit refresh. And now if I click on create, we should see it as green and in italics. Yeah. So then the other thing that you can do is you can also use hex colors as well. So what I showed you earlier was that I just simply defined the color by its name. But if I use a hex color as well, that will work. So I hit save and close. Oops, sorry, I forgot to remove a character in there. 1 second, let me just remove that. And refresh. And I'll refresh my web page. And then it should now appear as gray, which it is. So those are my low code tips. I have one more slide that I'm just going to go back to. So here it is. So one thing that you can do if you want to, get upskilled and learn about Parapages, and something that's helped me greatly in terms of doing a refresher, because I've stepped away from work in the last few months because, as David said, I've had a baby. So in here is where you can find a link to Nicholas Haydock's Parapages training course. So Nicholas Haydock is another Microsoft MVP based in Canada. He started with the actual company ADX Studio Portals. So he really knows what he's talking about. If you don't want to do the training course, there are other materials that you can find online, such as YouTube or podcasts. If you guys are familiar with Nick Dolman and Ulrich, I won't pronounce her last name because I don't know how to pronounce it and I don't want to get it wrong. They both have a new podcast called, I believe it's called the Power Platform Boost podcast. If I've got that wrong, if Nick's in the call, I am sorry. And if you want to connect with me, here's where you can find me. I have my own YouTube channel and I also have a blog. So thank you very much for having me in this month's Power Platform community call. And I hope you all enjoyed my low-code tips. And you can hear me correctly because I am talking very quietly right now. Because when you don't want to wake a baby. Trust me, you do not want to wake a sleeping baby.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elaiza. I kind of was thinking like you need your own theme song now. Like it's 3 a.m. and my demo is awesome, right? We can get Matchbox 20 to redo that for us, maybe. I don't know. We can see. I'll make a call.
It's funny that you mentioned Matchbox 20 because they actually are coming to New Zealand next year.
Awesome. They are actually out here at the Hollywood Bowl this week, actually, or next week or something. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. I mean, go get some rest. You've earned it. If this is Elaiza at 3 a.m., wow, like you must be even more amazing during regular hours. So you've earned it. Please go get some sleep. Thank you for staying up and sharing, or getting up early. Actually, she didn't stay up. We talked about this before. I was like, please tell me you're not staying up all night to come to this. So she got up early. So thank you. So thank you, Arun. Thank you, Robin. Fantastic demos today. Really exciting stuff. A great broad spectrum of everything for us to see. Let's wrap this show up. Some resources for you. Now, there was some talk about wanting to ask Q&A and all that in the chat. We have our community call conversations ready for you, so please don't hesitate to reach out to our amazing presenters. These are pages in the Power Apps Forum dedicated for you to collaborate with the presenters. Let them know you have questions, collaborate, ask questions. Let them know you just appreciate it, by the way. That is something that I cannot understate how valuable that is. Everybody throws ourselves out there in front of the community, and we'd love to know that it's appreciated. So don't hesitate to just say, hey, we really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your passions. That is a perfectly acceptable way to collaborate. So we will get these links in the chat as well. We also have a number of resources that are available to you. Our Power Platform Community Front Door is available, along with video samples and all of the communities around the fantastic products that we all know and love. We also have our other community calls. So the Microsoft Speakers Only is on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can access that at ak.ms/m365-dev-call. We also have a number of other community calls, the Identity Platform Office add-ins, of course, the monthly Power Platform, which you are in right now. And we have our sibling M365 and Power Platform Development, along with the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. Those are on Thursdays. So tomorrow is the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework at 7 a.m. Pacific. You can access all of these downloads and invites and videos that have recorded the calls, ak.ms/community/calls. We also would love to get some feedback from you. This helps us understand what we're doing right and what we would like to see more of or what you would like to see more of in the community. So please don't hesitate to fill out this form for us. It lets us show our management how much you all appreciate the community calls and the value. So you can check that out at ak.ms/community/call/feedback, and we will get that link into the chat as well. Lastly, the video and recording will be available within 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Community YouTube channel. You can access that at ak.ms/community/videos. Subscribe, and you will get alerts as soon as it drops and is available. You will not be able to download the video in Teams, even though it says, hey, that video is ready. It's only available to those in Microsoft. So do yourself a favor, go to ak.ms/community/videos, find all of the YouTube channels that are provided to you by us in the community, and subscribe. And then you can also follow on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365PNP. The next call, June 21st, I will actually be in Ireland with April and Daniel and a number of amazing other community contributors. So we will be having it live from Ireland. You can check it out at ak.ms/Power Platform Community Call. Thank you, everyone, for all that you bring to the community. You are amazing, and we would not be a community without your love and support. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day and a wonderful rest of the week.